You ever walk into a place and feel like every eye in the room is sizing you up, deciding if you belong? That's exactly what happened to me, or rather, to Maya Jackson, on a crisp fall afternoon in Atlanta, Georgia. I thought I was just popping into Sweet Harmony, a little bakery tucked in the heart of a vibrant, multi-ethnic neighborhood, to grab a slice of cake and soak in the vibes. But boy, was I wrong. The moment I stepped through those glass doors, I walked straight into a storm I didn't see coming. Sweet Harmony was the kind of place that felt like a hug from your grandma, warm, inviting, with the sweet scent of vanilla and caramel swirling in the air. Bright flower baskets hung outside, their petals swaying in the breeze, and inside, the clinking of coffee cups mixed with the hum of chatter from folks of all walks of life. The bakery was a local gem, known for its fancy desserts that could make your mouth water just looking at them. But it wasn't just the cakes that drew people in. It was the promise of community, a place where the neighborhood came together. At least that's what I'd heard. I pushed open the door, my worn-out sneakers squeaking faintly on the polished wood floor. I was dressed simple, faded jeans, a gray t-shirt I'd had since forever, and a headscarf tying back my curls. Nothing fancy, just me, Maya, a 35-year-old woman who'd spent most of her life proving she was more than what people saw on the outside. Growing up Puerto Rican in a rough Atlanta neighborhood, I'd learned early on to carry myself with quiet pride, like my abuela always said, "Mija, you're like the roots of a cheba tree, strong, even when the world tries to shake you." But that day, I wasn't thinking about all that. I just wanted a slice of their famous velvet dream cake, a red velvet masterpiece I'd heard so much about. The moment I stepped inside, I felt it, a shift in the air, like the room was holding its breath. Behind the counter, a young woman, maybe 22, stood with her blonde hair pulled into a tight ponytail, her crisp apron practically glowing under the soft lights. Her name tag read Chloe, and her smile was the kind that didn't reach her eyes. She looked me up and down, her gaze lingering on my faded jeans and scuffed sneakers, and I swear I could see the gears turning in her head. "This one doesn't belong here," her eyes seemed to say. I brushed it off, figuring I'd just order and go, but Chloe had other plans. "Hey, welcome to Sweet Harmony," she said, her voice dripping with a sweetness that felt more like syrup than honey. "You looking for something affordable? We've got some cookies over there in the corner." She pointed to a small display near the back, where plain sugar cookies sat under a dim light, far from the glossy cakes in the main case. Her words weren't just a suggestion. They were a jab, sharp and deliberate, loud enough for the couple at a nearby table to glance over. I felt that familiar sting, the kind that comes when someone decides who you are before you even open your mouth. But I swallowed it, like I'd done 1,000 times before. "Actually, I'd like to try the Velvet Dream," I said, keeping my voice steady, warm, like I was chatting with an old friend. The Velvet Dream was their priciest dessert, a $15 slice of red velvet layered with silky cream cheese frosting and a hint of dark chocolate. I knew it well. Too well, but Chloe didn't need to know that yet. Her eyebrows shot up and a smirk curled her lips, sharp enough to cut. "The Velvet Dream? That's our premium cake. Well, it's not cheap. You sure you want that?" Her tone was loud, almost performative, and I could feel the eyes of other customers, folks in pressed suits, moms with strollers, an older lady with silver hair, turning toward me. The air grew heavy, like the whole room was waiting to see if I'd back down. I met Chloe's gaze, my smile never wavering. "Yeah, I'm sure," I said, calm as a summer breeze, "and maybe a coffee to go with it." Inside, my heart was pounding, not from anger but from the weight of knowing I was being sized up, judged for my clothes, my skin, maybe even the way I carried myself. I thought about my abuela again, her voice echoing in my mind. "Don't let them dim your light, mija." so I didn't. I stood tall, my shoulders squared, and let Chloe's words slide off me like rain on a tin roof. Chloe rolled her eyes just enough for me to catch and turned to lead me to a table. Not one of the cozy ones by the window where sunlight spilled over checkered tablecloths, but a rickety one near the kitchen door where the faint smell of dish soap lingered. "This should work for you," she said, dropping the menu with a little thud like she was daring me to complain. The older lady at a nearby table, her name tag read Evelyn, frowned slightly, whispering something to her granddaughter. A young guy in a sharp blazer, maybe a businessman, glanced up from his laptop, his brow furrowing. I sat down, my hands resting lightly on the table, and looked around. The bakery was alive with color, bright murals of flowers and coffee cups on the walls, the hum of a salsa beat playing softly in the background, a nod to the neighborhood's Latin roots. But Chloe's attitude was like a cloud over it all, dimming the warmth. I could have called her out, could have made a scene, but that wasn't me. I'd learned long ago that sometimes silence speaks louder than words. Still, I couldn't help but notice the way the cakes in the display case were slightly off, frosting uneven, layers not quite right. A small detail, but it stuck with me. Little did Chloe know, I wasn't just another customer. I wasn't just here for a slice of cake. I was Maya Jackson, the woman who'd created the Velvet Dream recipe, a nationally acclaimed pastry chef who'd kept her name out of the spotlight to let her work speak for itself. But that afternoon, as Chloe's smirk lingered and the room's eyes weighed on me, I knew something bigger was coming, something that would turn this little bakery upside down. You ever have one of those moments where you're holding back a storm inside, but you keep your face calm because you know the real fight's coming later? That's where I was, tucked into that shaky little table at Sweet Harmony, the hum of a conga drum from a street band outside blending with the clink of coffee cups and the warm scent of caramelized sugar. Chloe's words, those sharp, little digs about me not belonging, still lingered like a bad aftertaste. Her smirk was practically begging me to snap, but I wasn't about to hand her that win. My abuela always told me, "Mija, tu fuerza es como el flamboyán, quiet, but its roots run deep, holding strong through any storm." So I stayed rooted, letting her words slide right off me. I took another bite of the Velvet Dream, that red velvet cake I'd poured my soul into years ago. The cream cheese frosting was smooth, but the chocolate hit too sweet, like they'd used some cheap grocery store brand instead of the 70% cacao I'd specified. The layers were a touch dry, like someone in the kitchen had rushed the batter. I could have called it out right then, pointed out every flaw in front of the whole bakery, but that's not how I roll. Instead, I leaned back in my chair, my eyes sweeping over Sweet Harmony like I was piecing together a puzzle I'd built myself. The display case was a letdown, cakes slumping like they'd given up, frosting drooping in the heat. The staff hustled, but there was no heart in it, no pride in the craft. It hurt, knowing this place carried my recipes but not my spirit. Chloe sauntered past, her tray of coffee cups glinting under the soft lights, her heels tapping out a rhythm that screamed confidence. She didn't look my way, but I caught her leaning toward Tanya, the other server, her voice just loud enough to carry. Bet she's rethinking that fancy cake already, probably used to eating out of a box. Tanya, a quiet girl with tight braids and kind eyes, gave a small, uneasy nod, like she wanted no part of Chloe's game. The young couple at the next table, a mom and dad juggling a squirmy toddler, glanced over with a look that said they felt the sting for me. Evelyn, the older woman with silver hair like a crown, shook her head and murmured to her granddaughter, "Some folks need to learn how to talk to people." I waved Chloe over, my voice as steady as the beat of a bomba drum. "Hey, can you tell me what's in this cake?" I asked, nodding at the Velvet Dream. Her eyes narrowed like she thought I was setting a trap. It's cake, lady. Red velvet, cream cheese frosting, the usual stuff, she said, her tone coated in that fake politeness that cuts deeper than an insult. I kept my smile, soft but unshaken. Yeah, but what kind of chocolate? The flavor's a little off. For a split second, her confidence wobbled, like a dancer missing a step. I don't make the cakes, she snapped, crossing her arms. You want the recipe? Talk to the chef. She spun around, her ponytail bouncing, leaving behind a laugh that echoed in the quiet corner like a challenge. I wasn't angry, not yet. I'd faced too many Chloes in my life, people who saw my brown skin, my faded jeans, my Puerto Rican roots, and decided I was less than. Growing up in Atlanta's rougher edges, I'd heard it all. Bodega girl from kids at school, teachers telling me to stick to something practical instead of dreaming of pastry school. But my abuela's kitchen was my haven, where the smell of tres leches soaking into sponge cake was my escape, where I'd blend Southern soul with Puerto Rican heart to create the velvet dream. That recipe wasn't just cake. It was years of late nights, burned batches, and quiet victories, the kind that landed me a National Pastry Award. But nobody in this bakery knew that. Not Chloe, not Tanya, not even the customers stealing glances at me. I took another bite, letting the flavors roll over my tongue, and scribbled a note on a napkin. Wrong cocoa. Too sweet. Check oven temp. It wasn't just a critique. It was a reminder to myself of who I was, what I'd built. Evelyn caught my eye from across the room, her lips curling into a smile that felt like she knew I was holding something back. Jamal, the guy in the sharp blazer, paused his typing, his gaze lingering on me like he sensed the storm brewing beneath my calm. The bakery pulsed with life, kids laughing over cupcakes, the hiss of the espresso machine, the faint strum of a guitar from the street outside. But there was a tension building, like the moment before a piñata bursts open. Chloe thought she had me figured out, thought I was just some nobody trying to play fancy. But I was already 2 steps ahead, waiting for the right moment to let the truth shine. I thought about my abuela again, her hands kneading dough, her voice singing old Puerto Rican songs while we baked. The world will try to box you in, Mia, she'd say, but you've got a fire inside, like the sun over San Juan. Let it burn quiet until it's time. That fire was still there, simmering as I sat in that corner, my napkin full of notes, my heart steady. Chloe could throw her jabs, but I knew who I was. And soon, so would everyone else. Maya's subtle expertise and calm defiance hint at her hidden talent, leaving the audience eager to see how she'll reveal her true self. If you've ever been in a room where someone's trying to make you feel small, you know it's not just their words. It's the way they move, the way they look at you like you're invisible. That's what Chloe was doing, strutting around Sweet Harmony like she was the queen, and I was some nobody who'd wandered in by mistake. The bakery was alive with color, murals of coffee beans and hibiscus flowers on the walls, the scent of caramelized sugar floating like a warm hug. But Chloe's attitude was like a cold wind, cutting through it all. She made a point of ignoring me, chatting up a table of well-dressed folks in the center of the room, her laugh loud and fake. "Oh, you'll love the Velvet Dream," she told them, tossing her hair. "It's for people who appreciate fine things." The jab wasn't subtle, and a few heads turned my way, some curious, some uncomfortable. I kept my eyes on my plate, cutting another piece of cake, but I could feel the weight of their stares. My abuela's voice echoed again. "Let them underestimate you, Mia. It makes the truth hit harder." I waved Chloe over, my voice calm but firm. "Can I see the ingredient list for this cake?" I asked. Her smirk was back, sharper than ever. "What, you a food critic now?" she said, loud enough for the whole bakery to hear. "This isn't a cooking class, ma'am." She tossed a crumpled sheet from the counter onto my table, her eyes daring me to keep pushing. I smoothed out the paper, scanning the list. Just as I thought, cheap chocolate, not the 70% cacao I'd specified in the recipe. I looked up, meeting her gaze. "This chocolate's off," I said, keeping my tone even. "It's throwing the whole flavor out of balance." Chloe froze, her smirk slipping for a split second before she laughed, a sharp, mocking sound. "Oh, you're an expert now. Bet you've never even had real chocolate." The words stung, not because they were true, but because they were meant to humiliate me in front of everyone. Evelyn's granddaughter gasped softly and Jamal's jaw tightened, his fingers tapping his coffee cup. "She's out of line," he muttered to his friend. The room felt smaller, the air thicker, like we were all waiting for something to break. I didn't bite. I just smiled, folding the napkin with my notes. "Maybe you're right," I said, my voice soft but steady. "But I'd love to hear what your chef thinks." Chloe's eyes narrowed like she knew I was challenging her but couldn't figure out why I wasn't backing down. She stormed off, muttering to Tanya, "Some people just want to act fancy to feel important." But I wasn't acting. I was remembering every late night in my abuela's kitchen, perfecting that recipe, pouring my soul into every layer. I knew what sweet harmony was supposed to be, and this wasn't it. Kam shuk chu dao, kang thang thach thuk. Utagai tomo. Maya's calm defiance and expertise deepen the mystery of her true identity. Sometimes life flips on you so fast it's like the world spinning in reverse. One minute I'm sitting at that rickety table in sweet harmony, Chloe's words still ringing in my ears, and the next, everything changes. The kitchen door swung open, and out came Marcus, the manager, a tall man with graying temples and a smile that could light up a room. He spotted me right away, his eyes widening like he'd seen a ghost. "Maya Jackson," he called, his voice booming with warmth. "What are you doing here, hiding in the corner like this?" The bakery went quiet, like someone hit pause on the world. Chloe froze mid-step, her tray wobbling in her hands. The couple with the toddler stopped talking, and Evelyn's granddaughter let out a little, "Oh!" Marcus strode over, his loafers clicking on the floor, and clapped a hand on my shoulder. "Folks, this here's Maya Jackson," he said, turning to the room. "The genius who created our velvet dream and half the menu. National pastry champion, my secret weapon for keeping sweet harmony on the map." You could have heard a pin drop. Chloe's face went pale as the frosting on her tray, her eyes darting between me and Marcus like she was trying to wake up from a bad dream. The customers started whispering, their murmurs rising like a tide. "That's her?" the mom at the next table said, her eyes wide. Jamal leaned forward, a grin spreading across his face. "I knew she wasn't just anybody," he muttered. Evelyn nodded, her silver hair catching the light, a proud smile on her lips. I stood up, brushing crumbs off my jeans, and looked at Chloe. Her smirk was gone, replaced by a mix of panic and shame. I could have let her stew in it, could have called her out for every snide comment. But that's not how my abuela raised me. "Chloe," I said, my voice soft but clear, "I didn't come here to make a scene. I just wanted a slice of cake. But maybe we can all learn something today. Respect doesn't depend on what someone's wearing or what you think they can afford." The room erupted in applause, slow at first, then building like a wave. Evelyn was the first to clap, her hands moving with purpose, and soon the whole bakery joined in. Chloe stood there, clutching her tray like it was a lifeline, her cheeks flushed red. I didn't feel triumph, not exactly, just a quiet satisfaction, like when you finish a perfect Tres Leches cake and know it's right. Marcus shook his head, his eyes sharp as he glanced at Chloe. "We'll talk later," he said, his tone firm but not cruel. "How will Chloe react to this revelation, and what will Maya do next?" I could see it in Chloe's eyes, the way her world was crumbling right there in sweet harmony. Her hands shook as she set the tray down, her lips trembling like she was trying to find words that wouldn't come. The applause faded, but the weight of every stare in the room pressed down on her. I knew that feeling, the one where you realize you've messed up big time and there's no hiding from it. I'd been there, years ago, when I doubted myself in my abuela's kitchen, thinking I'd never be good enough. But someone gave me a chance to grow, and I wasn't about to let Chloe drown in her shame. "Hey, Chloe," I said, stepping closer, my voice low like I was talking to a friend. "Want to help me make a velvet dream right now? I could use an extra pair of hands." Her eyes widened like she couldn't believe I was offering her a lifeline. The room went quiet again, everyone watching. I don't know how," she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. "That's okay," I said, smiling. "I'll show you. It's all about the rhythm, like dancing to a good salsa beat." I led her to the open kitchen behind the counter, where the smell of sugar and butter was strong enough to make you forget your troubles. Marcus nodded, giving me the go-ahead, and I started mixing batter, showing Chloe how to whip the cream cheese frosting just right. "You gotta keep it at 18 degrees Celsius," I said, handing her a thermometer. "Too warm, and it's a mess." She followed my lead, her hands clumsy at first but steadier with every step. The customers watched, some leaning forward, others snapping pictures. Evelyn whispered to her granddaughter, "That's Grace right there," giving her a chance to make things right. When we finished, the cake was perfect, smooth, rich, a little piece of my heart on a plate. I cut a slice and handed it to Chloe. "Try it," I said. She took a bite, her eyes closing for a moment, and when she opened them, they were wet with tears. "It's amazing," she said, her voice breaking. The room clapped again, softer this time, like they were witnessing something sacred. Will Chloe take this chance to change, or will her pride hold her back? As the scent of fresh cake filled Sweet Harmony, the mood shifted from tense to something warmer, like the glow of candles at a family gathering. The customers weren't just eating anymore. They were part of something bigger. Evelyn stood up, her silver hair catching the light like a crown. "I've seen a lot in my 70 years," she said, her voice strong but kind. "I grew up in a time when folks like me, black women, couldn't even sit in places like this. Seeing Maya handle that nonsense with such grace, it reminds me why we keep fighting." Her granddaughter nodded, squeezing her hand. Jamal stood next, his blazer crisp but his voice raw. "I've been where you were, Maya," he said, "wearing a hoodie to a meeting and getting side eyes like I didn't belong. Your strength today, it's a wake-up call." The room murmured in agreement, and I felt a lump in my throat. I hadn't come here to be a hero, just to eat some cake, but their words hit me like a warm breeze on a cold day. I looked around, seeing faces from every corner of Atlanta. Black, Latino, white, young, old. This neighborhood was a patchwork, like the quilts my abuela used to make, each piece different but stronger together. Chloe stood at the counter, her head bowed, listening. I could see her wrestling with herself, the weight of her actions sinking in. Tanya, the quiet server, gave her a small nod like she was saying, "You can do better." How will these stories shape the bakery's future? By now, the bakery was more than a place to grab dessert. It was a stage, and I was standing in the spotlight. Marcus gathered everyone, staff, customers, even the kids licking frosting off their fingers, and I knew it was time to say something. I stepped forward, my heart pounding but my voice steady, like I was talking to my family back home. "I didn't plan on this today," I started, laughing softly. "I just wanted a slice of cake, but I guess life had other plans." I told them my story, growing up in a cramped apartment in Atlanta, where the smell of my abuela's tres leches cake was the only thing that made tough days bearable. Kids at school laughed at my accent. Teachers told me to aim low, but I kept baking, kept dreaming. "I won a national pastry award not because I was born special," I said, but because I refused to let anyone tell me what I couldn't do. And today, I'm asking you all to do the same. See people for who they are, not what they wear or where they're from. I looked at Chloe, her eyes red but listening. Respect isn't just for the folks in fancy clothes or with big wallets. It's for everyone, your neighbor, your server, the person you pass on the street. It's what makes us human. The room was silent, then erupted in applause, louder than before. Evelyn wiped a tear. Jamal raised his coffee cup like a toast, and even Tanya clapped, her shy smile breaking through. Chloe's shoulders shook, and I knew my words had hit home. Will this moment change the bakery for good? After the crowd settled, Chloe stepped forward, her hands clasped tight like she was holding herself together. "Maya," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I'm so sorry. I was wrong about everything. I judged you, and I want to be better." The room held its breath, waiting for my response. I smiled, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Thank you, Chloe. That takes guts. Let's start fresh, okay?" Over the next hour, I stayed late, showing Chloe the tricks of the trade, how to temper chocolate, how to pipe frosting like it's art. She listened, really listened, her hands steadier with every try. Tanya joined us, her quiet encouragement helping Chloe relax. "You're getting it," I told her as she piped a perfect rosette. Her smile was small but real, the first I'd seen all day. Marcus pulled me aside later, his eyes warm. "You didn't have to do that, Maya, but you did, and that's why this place is what it is." I shrugged, thinking of my abuela. It's what she would have done. Can Chloe truly change, and what will that mean for her future? Word spread fast in Atlanta. By the next week, Sweet Harmony was buzzing with more than just customers. It was a movement. I organized a community bake day, inviting everyone to make their own cakes and share their stories. Kids piped frosting, grandmas swapped recipes, and folks like Jamal and Evelyn told tales of overcoming prejudice. The air was thick with laughter, sugar, and the beat of salsa music from a street band outside. On social media, #Sweet Harmony lessons trended, with people posting about their own moments of standing up or being lifted up. The bakery became a symbol of what a community could be, diverse, messy, but bound by respect. Chloe was there, rolling dough with a kid from the neighborhood, her smile brighter than I'd ever seen. How far will this ripple effect go? As the sun dipped below Atlanta's skyline, I walked out of Sweet Harmony, the golden light painting the street like a canvas. I thought about my abuela, about the little girl who'd baked her first cake in a tiny kitchen, about the woman I'd become. Today wasn't just about proving Chloe wrong. It was about showing everyone, including myself, that kindness and strength can change more than a moment. The neighborhood hummed around me, kids laughing, a street vendor calling out, the faint rhythm of a conga drum in the distance. I smiled, knowing Sweet Harmony wasn't just a bakery anymore. It was a promise, a reminder that respect and love are the ingredients that matter most. As I turned the corner, I heard my abuela's voice one last time. "Keep baking, mija. The world needs your flavor." What's next for Maya and the community she's inspired? The story of Maya Jackson at Sweet Harmony delivers a profound lesson. True strength lies in rising above prejudice with dignity and kindness, transforming not just ourselves but those around us. It teaches us that respect is not a privilege reserved for those who fit a certain mold, but a right owed to every soul, regardless of appearance or background. In the face of injustice, Maya's calm resilience reminds us that we don't need to shout to be heard. Sometimes, quiet conviction speaks loudest. For adults and elders in the U.S. and beyond, this story is a gentle nudge to confront biases, whether in ourselves or others, and to break the toxic silence that allows judgment to fester. It's a call to recognize our own worth, to stand tall like a tree with deep roots, and to extend compassion even to those who've wronged us. By choosing empathy over anger, we can turn moments of division into opportunities for connection, fostering communities where diversity is celebrated, not diminished. Maya's journey shows that fairness and self-respect aren't just ideals, they're daily choices that shape a better world. We invite you to share your thoughts on this story in the comments. Have you faced or witnessed a moment where kindness overcame prejudice? Hit the like button to support these stories and subscribe to our channel for more tales that stir the heart and mind. Here's to finding peace amidst the chaos and hope in every new day.